Let's turn it over to the Hrudeys. Wow, where do you start? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. 93 playoffs.
Not a good memory. You said 93 playoffs. I lost that, right? So to Bearcat's story, I just want to say briefly, everything was right, except I have to correct you in one aspect about the story. You said you were playing a very average team. You're actually playing a pretty good team with an average goalie. I want to thank Kim and Kim and the Thumbs Up Foundation. Oh, by the way, Kate, we promised we'd do this. We want to fit right in. This is a real honor to be here. And Bearcat, thanks for the phone call and start this. Very nice. So, Kim, you said there are a lot of really special people here. And I would agree for the most part. But I would like to get Kurt Lang to please identify himself and stand up, please. Stand up, please, bud. You are looking at the face of evil. I bid on the smoker and he outbid me, so. Sit down, my friend, sit down. Pure evil. But thanks for your donation and your time. That's pretty good. So, we had the great pleasure, Donna and I, of golfing with Fred and Mike, but there was an interesting dynamic. So Fred, he's with Borger, and Mike, of course, is the CEO of Burnco. I think on about the third hole, I notice I'm picking up Fred's ball and his Lafarge logo on the golf ball. So I called him out on that. And you are right. Donna did outplay me, and she was the best of the Hrudeys, and I was the lousiest of the four golfers. So there you go. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Kate. Here's what I had in mind. I talked to Kim yesterday, and she thought this was a pretty good idea as well. Kate's going to tell her story. I'll do a little Q&A with her after. And because I think this is such a special room and such a dynamic group of people that really have a keen interest in mental health issues, that if you want to ask Kate or I any questions, we'd be glad to honor or answer honestly about anything that we've gone through and so on. So I think if you're interested in that, we'd be open to that also. So, cool? Yep. My lovely daughter, Kaitlin.
So for me, my anxiety started when I was 11 years old. I first started to get some thoughts in my head that were really controlling, and they mostly had to do with me getting certain diseases or dying. And at first I kept these thoughts to myself because I could kind of control them, and I could just kind of push them to the back of my head and ignore them for a while. But as the summer before grade 7 kept progressing, I started to get more controlling thoughts, and I couldn't control them myself. So I had this one that I was going to go blind, and in order for me to not go blind, I had to blink my eyes back and forth like this. And to me, it was so rational in my head. It made total sense to me that this was going to stop me from going blind, but to the average person, it doesn't really sound that rational. So I started to do little things during that summer, like blinking my eyes, and I would start to cancel on my friends to hang out, or cancel on going to dance camps. I would make up many excuses, and I was sick, or I didn't like that friend anymore, which wasn't true. So that started to happen, and then on the first day of grade 7, my mom went to drop me off at school, and I couldn't get out of the car. It was just way too hard for me. The thoughts were too controlling, and my brain wasn't letting me do the things that I needed to do. So I was crying, and I'm sure it was really hard for my mom then too to see me like that. So we decided that I needed some professional help, so we went home. My mom opened the phone book and looked at the first child psychologist that she could find, and we called, and unfortunately they said that we wouldn't be able to get in for about 3 months, I think it was. And my mom talked to them and said, listen, we honestly can't wait 3 months, she can't leave my side. So luckily, the psychologist was able to move around some appointments and we were able to get in that afternoon. When I first started my therapy sessions, we mostly just talked about what thoughts I had and what they were telling me that I needed to do. And a lot of them, like I said earlier, were around diseases and dying. And instead of blinking my eyes, some of them told me that I needed to be by my parents, specifically my mom, in order for these bad things not to happen to me. So that's why I latched on to my mom and I couldn't get out of the car, for example. So we started talking about my thoughts and how I was dealing with it, and then my therapist, diagnosed me with anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder. And at first it was relieving knowing that there's a name to what I had, because I had no idea what I was going through or if other people went through it as well. But I had no idea the struggle that I was going to go through to get better. So at first we just focused on different relaxation techniques and breathing techniques. My dad and I would focus on one relaxation technique that we call the garden. So we picture a garden in my head where I can go to relax, and at first it's kind of a drab garden, there aren't many flowers or anything. And as we progress through the relaxation technique, there are more flowers, my family's there, and my dogs and everything, so we like to do that, and that got me through a lot of hard times. And then after I was better with the relaxation techniques and the breathing techniques, we focused on exposure therapy. So for me, just going to school and getting out of the car was a huge feat. So that was our first goal, and we had many small goals that we worked towards. So going to school was the first one, staying at school for the whole 8-hour day, then going to class was next, and going to dance class, and then worked all the way up to going to a sleepover. So that was my middle school. It was really hard, and I felt really lonely because the only people that knew were my family. So it was really hard for me to deal with, and my friends, like I said, none of my friends knew, so I was kind of on my own at school in a dance class. Sorry, I'm not usually this emotional. But then once I reached high school, I started to have more good days than bad. I was able to go on some trips with my school around the country, or in different countries as well, which was awesome. And then after high school, I decided that I wanted to go to UBCO Kelowna for university. So I went out there, and I was out there for a few weeks when my thoughts started to come back like they were in grade 7. Really strong, really scary, and really controlling. And it got to a point where these thoughts were really dark, and I didn't know if I'd be able to get through it. So my parents and I decided that it was best if I came home back to Calgary. And so I moved back. I started seeing my therapist again, got a part-time job, started going to school again, and just started working towards those goals that I had again. So now I'm 24, and I'm starting a new job in October, which I'm super excited about. It's in the film industry, which is what I want to do when I'm older. So yeah, currently more good days than bad. I don't know if you'd be able to tell because I'm crying so much today, but I swear, more good days than bad.
So for people out there, Kate, that I'm sure many people have their own story in this room, and or family members or friends, but can you describe to us what OCD means to you, what the irrational thoughts that your brain trying to guide you in a direction that's not healthy, and also with your OCD, most of us think of OCD as washing your hands a lot, but yours is different.
So my OCD, my obsessive compulsive disorder, mostly revolves around thoughts getting trapped in my head and going in a loop. So an example, I'm going to get brain cancer, and that gets stuck in my head and I can't get it out, so it becomes obsessive. Sometimes I do have compulsions, like I said before, me blinking my eyes back and forth, that's a compulsion, just like washing your hands if you're a germaphobe. But mostly I get thoughts stuck in my head in a loop, which is really hard for me to stop the loop and cancel out the thoughts.
And anxiety. How does that affect you? Anxiety.
Oh, so once the thought gets stuck in a loop, my anxiety rises because it's such a scary thought to me. My brain always finds scary things for me to latch onto. It's never good things, unfortunately. So then my anxiety will rise, and then that's when I have to step in and do some relaxation or breathing techniques to try and get that anxiety down.
So, Peter, you're talking about we all have 60 or 70,000 thoughts a day, and unfortunately they're usually not very pleasant thoughts, and that's that loop that Kate's talking about. It was interesting, Mike Babcock, we did a mental health thing with him in Saskatoon a couple summers ago, and he loved that line about the loop. That's I shared it. That's what Kaitlin's line is for it. Is that, everybody calls it a loop, and that's just your, right? So that loop is so dangerous to you. Can you kind of share with us how you break the loop?
So most of my thoughts are, well, all of my anxiety thoughts and OCD thoughts are irrational. So what I have to do is I have to try and think of them rationally. So I'll use the brain cancer one, for example, again. So if I get brain cancer, I can't think of it as, oh, I'll never get brain cancer, because the loop just continues then. So I have to think of it, if I get brain cancer, I'm sure I'll be fine. And if not, I've had a great life and a great family, but I just need to try and think of it as rational as possible, because it will cut the loop off and it will stop it from continuing. Do you have any current illnesses that you're dealing with? This is kind of funny though. We joke about this because she sometimes will wake up and what's going to kill you today? Or well, the brain cancer one is actually one that I always think I have, so that is something that I'm currently thinking that I'm.
E. coli.
Oh yeah, one time I thought I had E. coli from this tainted cheese, but I didn't even eat any of the tainted cheese, but I just thought I would have gotten the E. coli from it. So yeah, it's pretty comical now.
I've said all of us have met a lot of really influential people in our lives, people that we admire greatly and respect for what they do. And I've said about Kaitlin that she is the hardest, she's the biggest fighter I've ever met in my life, because I couldn't have ever done it. I couldn't have battled this many years. How do you do it? How do you keep fighting?
It's just something that I have to do, and I have a great life, and I have a great family and friends that support me, and I just want to keep living, and I want to keep sharing my story, and I want to keep telling people that it does get better, and it's nothing to be ashamed about, and I'm not ashamed that I have a mental illness, and I want people to know that it's okay, and I feel like I just have to keep fighting. There's no reason not to. After she came home from Kelowna and getting help, I think it was in around January, February, then when you were doing much better, we had a great conversation, Kate and I, including Donna and Kaitlin's sisters, about if Kaitlin at some point would ever be comfortable in sharing her story. And we had a publicist that we worked with at CBC a while ago, and he knew some really great contacts, and he put us in contact with a guy at the National Post. Kate, of course, agreed without any pressure. He thought it was a good time to share it with everybody. There's a great writer at the National Post called Joe O'Connor. He wrote a beautiful, really touching story about Kaitlin. And then Lauren LaRose from Canadian Press wrote another article. It's a really beautiful story as well, told in a different way. And we were a little bit worried about social media and what people might say. What was the reaction that you received? It was so overwhelmingly positive that it's almost hard to believe. Like, people have been so kind to our family and to me. And it just makes me wish that I would have shared my story, even just with my friends earlier than I did. And it's just really heartwarming, but like my dad says, it's heartwarming, and it can also be really hard because some people come up to us who are struggling through the same thing, and they might not be having more good days than that at that time. So it can be really hard, but it's really rewarding to know that people are so appreciative of what we do.
I think this is a good time now to open it up to questions. I just want to share something with you though, like for Donna and I, how we've gone through this. When Kate had all those things at around age 11, we were dealing with RBC in this program they had about 3-4 years ago called Know the Signs. And they came up with this, identified this thing with about 4 or 5 different signs. Well, the night before we were going to go public with this, Don and I were on the phone because I was in a different city, and we identified, I think, 13 different things, different signs that Kaitlin had shown for a year or two for sure. But we missed all those signs, and I'm not ashamed of it because we didn't know trouble was lurking. But what we didn't do at the time, if you're out there and you notice somebody going through these things, maybe put it all together. That was the one mistake we made because we thought everything was an individual act and we didn't put it together. So that's my advice to everybody there. And the other thing is, don't ever get mad at the person. Get mad at the disease because that's important. They don't want to do this. They don't want to be going through this. It's not them. So I always encourage people to do that. Thank you. We'll take questions. Anybody want to start with a question? Yes.
Was there any drugs involved? Not that got you to this point, but for recovery.
Right.
Yeah, I'm currently on medication. That's a whole other thing for me. It's been a really long road. It's been like 5 years of me trying to figure out the right medication. I'm still trying, but I do find a big difference while I'm on medication than before I was.
Any others?
Yeah.
Hi. First of all, you're amazing. You're strong. I have a question. I have a few mental health issues, and one of them is obsessive disorder. And when I get triggered, all I think about is suicide. It's all I think about. And I'll lock myself away for days. And I do the disputing irrational beliefs, and I try all these different techniques. And when they don't work, I just shut down, and I don't know what to do. And I usually call someone like Kaitlin. What do you do when they don't, or when you're disputing these irrational beliefs? Because sometimes I feel like I live as 2 different people. I know it's not right, and I continue to go back and forth. What do you do if it doesn't work?
Well, I do a similar thing. I call either my parents or my boyfriend or my friends to try and get me through it, my sisters, because sometimes, like you said, you just can't do it on your own, and you trying to think rationally just doesn't work for some reason, so you need other people to help make it rational for you. So I call my family and my friends and stuff like that too.
Mike should be congratulated as well. He told his personal story to Don and I this morning at the golf course. And how long are you sober now?
August 10th was 34 months.
Fantastic. Mike's doing some really good work here in the community, and good on you, bud. Yeah, good on you, bud. Any others? You can ask anything you want. We won't hold back. Anything? Yeah.
Okay, but my question, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, this is thinking back to being told, or your parents being told that you're not going to be seen for 3 months and you're in a crisis. When you were able to, and if you could, address our premier and her panel, what would you ask her for the one thing that you would like to see change in Alberta that would help mental health the most, in your opinion?
That's a hard question because I feel like there are lots of things that could be changed, and I think having more affordable care for people out there would help a lot, because it's so expensive sometimes to get the help that you need, and it's not fair because everyone needs the help, and it's just not fair.
We strongly agree with what Kaitlin just said. It's heartbreaking when we meet a lot of people and they share their stories, but they're not able to get help. And that's what you said, Kim, about the system's broken, and it is. But we're talking, and I think we're making enough noise that we are going to have a breakthrough. There's something really exciting that we can share, like a small part of. We're also partnered with the Alberta Children's Hospital, and I don't know if they've made an announcement, so we can't share, but there's something really exciting coming fairly soon, and it's going to, I think, going to be a game changer in a big way. And so we're really looking forward to that day. I think it's going to change the landscape. So that part's really good.
So, Kelly, as a young man whose wife wants to have a baby, and it's probably, God forbid, going to be a daughter, what advice do you have to young men who might have daughters who are suffering just that you could pass on to them?
Say the last part.
What advice do you have to young men who are having daughters and they might not recognize the signs that you've seen?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd say go for it, because it's super amazing to have children. And in my what? My life changed because I have 3 daughters. So I was always in a male environment. So having daughters is perfect for me. It really helped me understand a lot, see things a little bit differently. But the guidance, I don't know if there's, when you're dealing with women and boys, or I suppose there's differences, but in terms of like what you're looking for in mental health, I think the signs, if you really open your eyes, they're all there. Although I will say this, the signs are there, but how you read them, like Kaitlin was a fantastic liar, right?
Yeah.
She was a really good liar. And so we wanted to believe her, right? Like she had all these migraines and she had all these things that clearly afterwards we recognized. And even when we first started going to the psychologist, she fought us. She hated us for months, maybe longer, because she was going to fight. And her brain was telling her totally irrational things about what we were trying to help her get accomplished. So, and that's the other thing, that's hard work. Like you got to really put in time to get her to break through. And you can't give into it. And it's heartbreaking when you have to make her do things that she just doesn't want to do, right? That was tough. But she still knows how to fight. Like about a year ago, last June, May, you were having a really tough time, but you continued to fight. Now that's cool.
I just have one more thing to add to that. For advice, just be, like my parents have been so loving towards me and just supportive through the whole thing. I feel like that's all you really need, is just support and a safe space to share how you feel.
That is one thing that none of us like going through this, but that is one thing. Like Donna's really good with a million things and the breathing techniques, but that thing really made us bond, like unbelievable. Kaitlin talked about going to her garden, her safe zone. We'd do it for some nights 2-3 hours a night, and for many, many nights in a row. And I might be on the road and we'd spend 3 hours on the phone, and it was beautiful to see her go from a really bad place to, in 3 hours, life is okay again, much better. Yeah?
It's a two-part question. So, Kelly, how do you and your wife look after your own mental health while supporting your daughter? And then, Kaitlin, the support that you get from family and friends, what do you expect from that support? What does that look like when you're getting that support that you do appreciate?
So for me, what I'm looking for is someone to listen to me when I'm talking and to really try and understand what I'm going through. I'm not looking for someone to have the fix or know exactly what to say every time, because you know, there's never really any right thing to say. That's why I have a therapist, because he tells me that stuff. But I'm just looking for support, and I'm looking for them to give me a hug and just to be there, and I just know that they love me and that they're listening to me.
Donna and I are a great team. We've been married over 33 years now, and we're great communicators, and that's very important that you don't pull apart. You just talk and you fight together. But you have to make sure that you do support each other, because it can wear you down. And that's the story I was talking about you can't get mad at the person. One time I recall Donna was mad, and I reminded her of that, and then when we were bringing Kate home from Kelowna, we were in separate cars, because she had her car in Kelowna for the school year, and I had my truck there to bring her home, and I was really mad on the way home. And I called Donna, and she reminded me just of that, and then I felt horrible, but it's kind of how it goes, right? So, but yeah, you got to slug it out together, because you can't do it alone, right? And it just beats you up. You get a few really good, trusted friends that you can talk to about it, and stick together.
Can you guys touch more on those cues that you missed?
Sure, yeah. So the question was, what were some of the signs that we missed? And there were plenty, and jump in if I miss any. But okay, so she had the blinking of the eyes like this, not being with her friends, not going to dance, not going to school, loss of appetite.
But it built to that.
Yeah, it would
started
build.
out like she just, oh, I don't want to go to that sleepover. I don't like that weird fight in an argument with whatever girl, or I've got a headache, and it would just be little things, then it snowballed into.
Yeah. What my wife said is that it started small, so she'd say things, and this is all pretty regular, right? So she'd say, well, I don't like this friend as much, yeah, right?
Yes.
And then it'd go into something else, and then it, like I said, when you look at it individually, it doesn't seem like a big thing, but when you look at the entire picture, there are other things. Do you remember what else? Well, the migraines, which you're lying about. Sleeping.
Just stay home.
Yeah.
She just wanted to stay
Yeah.
by my side. It was 24/7. Yeah, and before that, she was very outgoing, lots of friends, sleepovers, dancing. Right. And it just went to right with me. Right. And it didn't matter if I went to the grocery store, she had to be there.
Yeah, so she had to be with Donna all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Back here, Kaitlin.
Sorry?
Let's have a question about the statement talking about mental health. As you guys have had more discussions, how these conversations kind of evolved in your social circles. As difficult as the kindness were, as casual as it's talking about.
How we see it in social work, it's not just when we talk to each other. Someone brings it up.
oh,
Like how it's easy.
So if I'm about how the conversation goes in social situations, or
Well, just, I guess one like the point of just sort of first you said that you had challenges with mental health, and being able to talk about it on a daily basis with people that are your support, but those conversations.
what the conversation would be like when you're looking for support and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, versus the ongoing conversation about how you're feeling.
Sorry, I have bad hearing, so I'm just trying to figure this out.
So I get like somebody who's might be struggling with mental health.
Yes.
Has, I guess sees the challenge of them bringing that to their friends. It's sort of the first step. How does the conversation with them change over time once they do bring up those things? Does it get easier and easier?
Somebody help me just.
yes.
How does it start when you're talking to your friends? And how does it over time evolve when you're talking to them? Does it get easier? Yes.
Does the conversation get easier?
So does the conversation get easier or evolve or become more conversational as opposed to I'm just revealing something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in our experience, there's mine. I can't speak for Dawn. I can't speak for Kate. When you've got somebody that you trust, you sort of just maybe blurt it out because you're maybe troubled or something's really weighing on you, and you need to get it out. And then you just sort of matter-of-factly talk about what you're going through and what the situation is, how good it can be, how bad it can be, where you are, that you're worried when it's going to resurface, because it always does. So you're always looking for those conversations and sharing with them, like what their experiences have been. That's what I know. It's Kate kind of mentioned it, but it is so hard when we're doing things like this and sharing, and you look when somebody comes up to share with us, because we're really lucky in that sense. Seriously, since we went public, that's about 4 years ago, there has not been a day that I don't go where somebody doesn't come up to me at Tim Hortons or send me a text or an email or something. Every single day, people in Canada communicate with me about it. And I love it. That's fantastic. But it is freaking heartbreaking when you look in their eyes and you see where they are. Because when you first identify it and you know personally the battle in front of them and they're scared, that's a kick right in the you-know-where. And you just got to look at them and tell them it's going to be okay.
The question I have is trust came up quite a bit, and I'm wondering where Kaitlin felt she could trust and she could share stuff with her family and be honest about where she was at and dealing with it.
So when I was first getting these thoughts, like when I was 11, like the summer before grade 7, I kept the thoughts to myself because I didn't know if everyone had thoughts like that or if it was like normal. So I kept them to myself, but then once they started getting really controlling, I needed to tell someone. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. So I told my parents, and then I told my sisters. Well, I think my parents talked to my sisters about it too, and then from then I just kept it to myself with my friends, and I didn't tell them until I was 19, my closest friends. And like I said, I kind of regret doing that because they're so loving and so caring for me that I know that I could have told them earlier and they would have been there for me. But for me, it was more, I was embarrassed to tell people, not necessarily that I didn't trust them. It was just more on myself that I was embarrassed. So I had to get over that before I could tell people what I was going through.
As parents, what was maybe the most important point, or maybe the first point where you discovered that you needed to really step in? I think as parents, we fight. They're just teenagers, or they're just kids, or just going through something. At what point did you say, like, this is not okay, or this is not normal? We need to do something.
So the question was, what made Dawn and I step in and take charge of this or try and get a hold of the situation? What was the event or what circumstances? Well, I think it's when Donna tried to drop Kaitlin off at school. And Donna, I like to quote what she said. When she came home, she said, "Kelly, if you could have only seen the sheer look of fear in her eyes." And we all know that with people that are struggling. So the point is, when it becomes debilitating, like we all have things like my kids tease me, Donna teases me now because of what we've been going through. I think they've diagnosed me with OCD. But I can function. I do crazy stuff, but I can function, where she couldn't function anymore. She wasn't functioning in the world. And so that's where, again, maybe we waited too long because we didn't put all the signs together, but at least we did something when we had to.
A follow-up to that, Kaitlin, how, I guess the time period prior to that, did you want your parents to step in?
So
I meant the time lapse between when they stepped in and when she needed them to step in.
Well, that's a good question, but I didn't really think that I needed help, really, because I was doing okay when I was with my mom, and I kind of liked that feeling of being with my mom because the thoughts stopped and everything. So I thought if I could just be with my mom the whole time, I'll be fine. I don't need any help. So I didn't really think that I needed them to step in for any reason. And then now, obviously, they did the right thing, and I'm so thankful for it. But at the time, I don't think I really thought that I needed help.
With these thoughts at that age, did you lose somebody, or did somebody get sick or ill that you thought you were going to be in that position?
No, actually, that's something that my therapist and I worked on a lot, was trying to figure out why it happened and why I started getting all these thoughts and like if there was a stressor or a trigger for it. But we still don't know. I think it's just the makeup of my brain, and it just got to a point where it was controlling and it couldn't function on its own anymore.
Yeah.
On a personal level, I suffer from severe depression, and it's really hard for me to help my son who suffers from the same thing. So I'm very weak over that. If I can't help him, how can I really do it?
Can you just repeat the last bit?
Who do we go to for help if I can't help him?
Right.
Because I suffer from the same issues. That's why this comes up. Yeah, like if I talk to him, I can't help him. He can't help me. We suffer from the same thing. What do we do then?
That is the frustrating thing, right? That's where the system is broken, because you're trying to help each other, but there's no help for you right now. And you must feel, I can't speak for you, but you must feel like you're alone and on an island, and that you're reaching out to people and you can't get any help. So that's where I think we just need to keep talking and forcing the politicians and the medical department to make some big changes. That's one thing I was thinking about last night, having my glass of wine, because I like to do that at night, have a nice glass of wine and think. And I was thinking about this when people say that, well, mental illness is like, having a broken bone. You go to see a doctor, but the thing I was thinking about, well, it's not really, because if you break your wrist, the doctor puts a cast on and says, okay, in 6 or 8 weeks, you'll be pretty close to normal. Well, when you get diagnosed with mental health, in most cases, it's a lifetime sentence. Now, you can deal with it, hopefully, and you can learn to manage it, but it's different, and that's why we've got to make sure this is better, that we all have conversations like this, that the system's not good right now, and it's got to get a lot better. But I suppose that 10, 15 years ago, nobody was having banquets like this. You just suffer.
I don't have a question. First, I want to thank the Hrudey family for opening up. Kelly, you were on a lot of really good teams, but this is the best team you ever been on.
That's a great way to end this. Thank you. Keep fighting. We love you guys, and you ever need us again, Kim and Kim. Oh, I missed Garrett. He did an amazing job. I love that. That was fantastic. Thank you.